What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel and podcast network. Noah Hiles coming to you on a Mailbag Thursday, where I answer all of your questions related to all things Pittsburgh Pirates. Before we dive into this week's questions, I want to remind everyone to check out all of our work at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already, and check out our print product. We print on Thursdays and Sundays. Again, check out everything at post-gazette.com. All right. Mailbag Thursday. I apologize for not having a mailbag video last week. I was a little under the weather. I still had the written portion, which again, you can read at post-gazette.com. We'll always have the written stuff. That's the first priority as a newspaper. We have the written portion always available. But wasn't feeling good enough to go on camera, so we took a week off. But we're back, and we've got some good questions that we're going to dive into right now for this week's mailbag. We start off with Jack asking, what is your concern level with Oneil Cruz? Would the Pirates be wrong to bank on him having a better year in 2026? I think the Pirates have to bank on him being better in 2026 unless they are willing to make a crazy splash move and trade him. I don't know what you could even get for a guy like Oneil Cruz right now. I don't think you'd be getting anything close to his overall value. So I don't think they can trade him. And I don't think they're going to spend the money necessary to kind of replace the production that he, even at his worst, can provide. Maybe at his worst, but I don't think they're going to spend the money that would bring in a player that they hope Cruz could be. Their best chance at having a true superstar power hitter in the middle of their lineup is Oneil Cruz figuring it out. Now, do I think that that's going to happen? I'm becoming more skeptical by the day. I think Oneil Cruz can be a lot more similar to what we saw from him last year, which is a much better player than what we're seeing this year. I think he can return to that form, maybe a little better, but I don't know if we're ever going to see Oneil Cruz become the player that I think a lot of us expected him to be as a Pittsburgh Pirate. That true five-tool, undeniable superstar. His ceiling might be what we saw last year, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe he does earn an all-star nod or two throughout his career. I'm not sure it's going to happen here in Pittsburgh. He just kind of seems lost right now. And I don't know if it's the change in hitting coach. I don't know if it's just a mental thing. I don't know what it is, but since really the start of June, he's kind of looked absolutely lost at the plate. He falls behind in counts way too early, and he does not perform well when he's behind in the count. I think he's way too passive at the plate and just kind of looks like he's guessing up there, and he's guessing wrong more often than not. And that's a scary thing for the Pirates because this is a guy, when they're constructing how this team is going to be a winning ball club, Oneil Cruz was a big piece of the puzzle, as was Bryan Reynolds. And you saw what happened in April when they had some injuries to the team, when they lose Jared Jones and they lose Spencer Horwitz, they lose Nick Gonzalez and a few other people as well. But especially on the offensive side, losing their starting first and second baseman, they needed Cruz and Reynolds to play to the best of their abilities. And Cruz played well, actually, in April. Reynolds did not. But that's the story of this team, is they need both of those guys to play like all-stars. And Reynolds has been playing like an all-star lately. Since really the trade deadline, he's been a really good hitter, the hitter the Pirates need him to be for a whole season. Oneil Cruz, meanwhile, I mean, he's been one of the worst hitters in baseball since June. Maybe the worst. I haven't checked the latest numbers, but I think he entered the week with the second lowest weighted runs created plus among all qualified hitters since June 1st. I could be wrong there, so if I am, I apologize, but I believe that that's what I saw when the last I look at the metrics. But he's struggling, and at this point in his career, I don't know what excuses you can give him. He's played pretty much an entire season in center field now. That move occurred. Yeah, that a move was made in last August, last August, late August. So he's been in center field for a year. And I don't think the defense has hurt him. I mean, he's been better defensively. It's just his approach. I mean, this was a guy who in the second half last year hit well against left-handers. He has seemingly like no chance when he goes up to bat against a left-hander this season. It's kind of crazy to watch. I think they have to hang on to him for 2026 because they need him to, at the very least, be the player that he was in 2024, if not more. They need him to be more. They really need him to be more. But at the very least, they need him to be what he was last year. And they gotta give him one more year to do that. And if it doesn't happen next year, then you might have to look at moving on. And I think that that's kind of applicable to a lot of guys on this team, where you hang on to him for another year and you see like what can we get for this guy if it's not happening here. Like if Brian Reynolds performs like he did this whole year next year, you have to ask that question for him too. What are you really getting out of this player? And could you get more if you were to move on? There's still probably a team that would take both of those guys. Um, although their value is plummeting, and maybe that would just mean like the start of a new rebuild, which I know no one wants to hear or even think about. But I mean, Cruz is such a big piece to this puzzle. They need him to pan out. And I think you give him one more year to figure it out here. And if not, then you have to ask some questions, not only pertaining to Cruz, but about the entire organization, because I don't know how you replace him if you're not going to go out and spend some serious money on a better option in center field. So next question comes from Sid, who asks, it feels like the buzz surrounding Ben Cherington's potential firing has died down. Do you still think he's on the hot seat? Sid, I haven't heard anything that would suggest Cherington's going to be fired. That could obviously change. I mean, I'm recording this on September 10th. This is running on September 11th. Stuff could go wrong, but I think that they're in a spot now where the belief is, hey, this team played closer to its potential under Don Kelly. They're probably going to finish. I mean, I know they're on a little bit of a losing skid right now, but you look at their upcoming schedule. They've got the Nationals. They've got a couple more games against the Orioles, the Athletics, the Braves. I mean, the Reds, who aren't playing great baseball. I think this team can finish around 500 with Don Kelly, and if it does, then Ben's safe. And even if it doesn't, I think that we're just at a point where they feel like they're not far away. And they just rebuilt this front office with a whole bunch of new baseball ops hires. All of their young pitching is up now. They're not going to have to spend hardly any money on pitching. And if you just look, and I've said this before, if you look at the moves Ben made at the deadline, they were moves made by a guy who kind of indicates that he's planning on being back. He gave himself more minor league capital to trade, more financial flexibility to reallocate some money that would have gone to Bednar, to Brian Hayes, now IKF, and Andrew Heaney as well. I mean, they have some money to spend to add to the payroll to kind of reconstruct what they're looking to do on a day-to-day as far as the lineup is concerned. And you look at what the lineup is right now. I mean, the right side of the infield's probably not going to get touched. They're going to keep Reynolds in right, probably keep Oneil Cruz in center. So you're looking at shortstop, third base, and left field. And you have the number one prospect in baseball who's in Double-A. That's going to be your shortstop next year. I don't know when he's going to get here, but he's probably going to be a part of that. So really, you're looking at two positions, left field and third base. And you have a big asset that you can move with Mitch Keller this offseason, who will probably get moved. And that's going to fill one of those spots. And the other spot you've got to find to fill through free agency or another trade with maybe some other young pitching prospects. And I think that Ben Cherington's going to be the guy to make those moves. It seems like that's the case. I haven't heard anything definitive. Make no mistake, I'm not reporting that Ben Cherington will be back, but I haven't heard any sort of rumbling in the last, I don't know, really since the trade deadline. That was the last time I felt like there was some buzz about Ben potentially likely not being back. But really since August and everything, since this team started playing better after the trade deadline, you look at how the prospects that they acquired are performing right now. I think he saved his job, and I think Ben will be back next year. That's, again, I'm not reporting that, but as I see things currently, I anticipate Ben being back next year. Pete wants to know, were the Pirates wrong to move Bubba Chandler into the starting rotation? Pete adds that his Sunday outing was a disaster. Well, it was a disaster. But no, I don't think they were wrong. I think Bubba Chandler is going to be a guy who, especially like I just said, I anticipate Mitch Keller being traded. If that's the case, then Bubba Chandler might be your number 2 in the rotation next year. Or, if not number 2, then 3 or 4. This is a guy that's going to be expected to pitch 150 plus innings for you in the major leagues next year. That's probably what they're planning on him. And they're going to need him to be good, not just an innings eater. They need him to be a frontline starter. And this is the time for him to iron out all of those wrinkles. And yeah, he looked bad Sunday, but he looked really good in his first 2 outings. The Dodgers was a little rocky, but you look at the team that hit him around. I mean, the Brewers are hitting everybody around right now. Same can be said for the Dodgers. Those are 2 of the best lineups in baseball, especially in the National League right now, as far as putting together consistent, competitive at bats, giving headaches to pitchers. This is the time for Bubba Chandler to struggle, to get humbled, to get his butt kicked a little bit. So I like the decision to get him in the starting rotation, even if he's only going to go 4 innings, the same amount of length that they allowed him to go as a relief pitcher. Just let him get into that routine. Let him get his feet wet. Again, these games don't matter. They're in last place. They're going to finish in last place. Let Bubba get the experience. That's what he's up here to do. I'm not saying they have to start him every single time. If he's going to bounce back and forth between the bullpen and the rotation, depending on how things kind of line up, I think that that's fine. But he should still continue to get starts here and there. That shouldn't be just a final decision. Okay, he's no longer starting any more games for the remainder of the season because of how bad he was in 1 outing. And again, it was a horrible outing, but this is a big piece of your future. Not everyone's just going to come up here and dominate like Paul Skenes did. Some guys, they need a little bit more work, a little bit more experience, and they need to get their butt kicked a couple of times to really piece things together. So I would like to see Bubba Chandler continue to get opportunities out of the rotation. If they want to continue giving him some long relief outings as well, I think that's fine. But I think it would be wrong to just stop having him be used as a starter this season, because he should get a couple more starts. He should get a chance to redeem himself. Dave wants to know what next year would look like for Braxton Ashcraft. Dave says he's been spectacular this year, and I would agree. And he has to be in the starting rotation next year in April, right? I think he is in the start of the season, Dave, assuming he's healthy. I mean, Braxton, I think, for my money, has been their best rookie this year. It's just been really impressive, man. Like the way that he's thrown the ball, coming into the major leagues as a reliever when he really has never been a reliever. The way he performed there was really impressive. And, how he's looked as a starter, too, has been really good. I know he allowed the home run Tuesday night against Baltimore, but overall, I mean, he's still throwing the ball really well. His pitch mix is solid. You see why this guy was a top 100 prospect. My biggest concern with Ashcraft, though, is I don't know if this is a guy that you can realistically expect to log 150 innings in a major league season. He's gonna, if he hasn't already, he will eclipse 100 innings this year. I haven't checked. I know he's probably close. He probably already has, actually. And he's going to continue to build up, but there's just so much injury history here. I don't know if you're doing yourself a service by pushing him too far. I think that 120 to 135, 140 mark is where he's going to have to sit for the majority of his career. And so to me, that indicates that he's going to have to be kind of this hybrid weapon if you want to use him as a starter. Again, I think he's going to start the year in 2026 in the opening day rotation. But you got to look, they're probably going to ease Jared Jones back into the mix. They're probably going to slowly build up Hunter Barco. Yohan Oviedo might be a guy they slowly build up, or maybe he makes the opening day rotation. I don't know. But I think Braxton is a guy where you have to go in and be really strict with his workload, not just next year, but just for the remainder of his career because of everything that he's gone through. You want to be able to use him to the best of his abilities. I still think his long-term value is a reliever. And I know that sounds crazy to say because he's looked so good as a starter, but the injury history scares me. And I wouldn't be willing to sacrifice, a really productive career for just a couple of seasons where he is a number 2 and a number 3 in a rotation where you probably can get close to that production from other guys like a Mike Burrows, who's probably a little bit more fit to hit that 170 inning mark that you're looking for from a number 3 or number 3, number 4 starter. So I think Braxton starts in the rotation, but he's going to be a hybrid usage guy. I think for the next couple of years until they really feel confident that all the injury stuff is in the past. And I just don't know if I'll ever feel completely confident enough if I were making the decisions to let that happen. I think his best use is being kind of that bounce in between spot start, maybe give him a couple months of the season where they need him to be a starter, but also keep that usage, keep that volume under close, watch, because I think he's a guy that it could go south quickly if another injury happens. And you don't want to see that. You don't want to see them waste such a talented player by misusing him. And to the Pirates' credit, they've been very good with managing all of these workload constraints that so many players, so many of their young pitchers have had over the last couple of years. And last question comes from Tom. He wants to know, if you could only pick one to be back next year, who would you choose? Tommy Pham or Andrew McCutchen? I'll start off by saying this. I think Andrew McCutchen would be, if they're going to have to pick one. If I was betting money, I would bet on Kutch. Just because if he wants to be back, he'll be back. I think his want is still up for discussion right now. He wants to see, and he said this, obviously, he wants to see the Pirates show a little bit more commitment to winning. I think he wants, like what Paul said, what a lot of other players have suggested, is he wants to see some upgrades to the offense. He also knows that he needs to be better as well. He wants to be more like he was in 23 and even a little bit more like last year that compared to this year. He has to feel like he can perform and hold up his side of the bargain. But if Kutch feels like he can do that, and he feels like the Pirates are in a better place to win and are a team that can allow him to play winning baseball, he'll be here. He'll be here if he wants to be here. It's just, does he want to be here? So if he wants to be here, Andrew McCutchen will be a Pirate next year. I don't think the Pirates are going to tell him no. I just don't think ownership, candidly, is going to be the one that says no. I think ownership wants Andrew McCutchen to play every single season for the remainder of his career for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So yeah, if Kutch wants to be here, he'll be a Pirate. Now, if I'm choosing between two players, I think Tommy Pham provides more value. And that's not a slight against Kutch. It's just that Tommy Pham plays above average defense, and Andrew McCutchen doesn't. Andrew McCutchen is a designated hitter. And Andrew McCutchen, while, yeah, you can play him in the outfield, and I thought he looked fine defensively this year, I don't know if you could depend on Andrew McCutchen to play 100-plus games in the outfield like we've seen Tommy Pham do this year. I don't think you could expect that for him. And if you did, I don't know if you'd get the same type of offensive production that you got from Tommy Pham. I mean, both of them have been pretty much the same hitter. They're slightly above league average as far as OPS plus or weighted runs created plus, whichever you value. Kutch has a few more home runs, but I mean, Tommy has hit for better average and has, I think, been just as tough as an at bat. So essentially they provide the same value at the plate, and Tommy's a plus defender. So that's where I would look at it, as Tommy's probably the more valuable asset at this point, where you can move him around. He could play multiple positions, where Kutch is really just a designated hitter. You could play him in the outfield again, but you can't play him as frequently there as Tommy Pham. I wouldn't sign Tommy Pham with the expectation of him being an everyday player. If I were to bring him back, I would sign him as a fourth outfielder, knowing that, he's still probably going to play. He's probably going to start 90 to 100 games just because of injuries, of matchups, of certain things here and there. If he's getting hot, you can keep him in the lineup. But I would have other options ahead of Tommy Pham on the depth chart, but I'd bring him back saying, hey, you're going to play probably in a similar sample size to what you did this past year, maybe a little less. But you're going to bounce around. You're going to play some right field. You're going to play maybe a little center if we need you to play center. And maybe DH a little bit too. Who knows? I just think Tommy Pham gives you a little bit more value overall because he can play in the field in addition to providing what Kutch essentially provides at the plate. So that's how I see it. Thank you to everyone, as always, for tuning in. Keep shooting your mailbag questions to me through my email, nhiles@post-gazette.com, or on Twitter @_Noah Hiles. We run these every Thursday. You can read all of my work at post-gazette.com and check out everything here on this YouTube channel at PG Pirates, where we have you covered every day moving forward.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.